When Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree finally released over a year ago, everybody lost their minds. Half of the gaming world was praising it as the best DLC of all time, while the other half wanted From Software tarred and feathered. But as for me, on my first playthrough, I could not have loved this DLC more. I've been playing these games for a long time and beaten all of them many, many times over. And at the time, it was my favorite DLC ever made. In this video, I want to do two things. Share my thoughts on the DLC a year later, and take a look at how the community reacted when it dropped. Because while I was completely absorbed and amazed by it, the broader community reacted in a much more divided way. And I want to explore not only what made it resonate so strongly with me, but also why so many players struggled to enjoy it, and what I think that reveals about how we approach games and media today. Let's get into it. The first time I played Shadow of the Erdtree was when it dropped after 2 long years of waiting. I felt like a kid waiting for Christmas, insanely excited and consuming every scrap of news. But I did give myself a rule as the release drew closer. Once it was out, I would go dark on Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, anything that could spoil the experience. I wanted to go in as blind as I possibly could, because it's something I hadn't been able to do for myself on other releases for games I had anticipated, not even just From Software games. The only exception was sharing the experience with a few friends in Discord who had a similar mindset, discovering the world together but still blind of outside noise. When I finally loaded up the Xbox and touched the withered arm, seeing the haunting beauty of the gravesite plains as you touch that first sight of grace, it was just breathtaking. I already felt safe in the fact From Software was going to be going all in when I saw that view for the first time. And if I had any doubts about challenges to overcome and difficulty, well, the Black Ale Knight eviscerating me for an hour straight made it clear right away that this was a classic From Software DLC, which means it was going to be far more challenging than the base game. So far, so good, but if I did have one fear, it was going to be the bosses. Until Shadow of the Erdtree, I always considered Elden Ring's boss roster pretty uneven. There's some legendary bosses for sure, but also a lot of mediocre ones. But one moment during the second main boss, Relena, Twin Moon Knight, put that fear to bed. I was already loving the fight. I loved how aggressive she was when you were up close, with endless combos and unrelenting aggression, but if you did back up, you had enough time to catch your breath. The flow of this duel was amazing. But it was one attack that made me realize what kind of quality I was in for: the Twin Moons. As she went to the air, I was ready for the moons to come directly towards me. It was obviously a callback to her sister, Relena, Queen of the Full Moon, and her moon attack at Raya Lucaria, right? Well, abso-fucking-lutely not. The moons went directly downwards, slamming into the ground and causing a shockwave, sending me to the respawn screen. Knowing their players well enough to put them in for a twist like that made me realize From Software still knew how to surprise and challenge me in ways no other games could. And it only got better from there. Bale the Dread's fight was so cinematic and visually impressive, it made me think about how far video games have come since playing games on a Nintendo 64. And Mesmer might just be the perfect boss fight. It's truly one of the best boss fights ever made. That's something I can unpack in a whole other video. But the best thing about the main game was the open world and its exploration. So how does the Shadowlands stack up? Outside of just being beautiful to look at, I did really like the verticality. I thought it was so cool that you could see the regions far below you being teased at what was to come next. And the legacy dungeons were great. In particular, Shadowkeep was a standout and one of my favorite areas in the entire series. If I had to think about it, it's probably second only to Lindell, and nothing really matches Lindell for me. The way it connected to the other regions was so cool to me, and climbing upwards to the top to reach Mesmer, that was just a journey on its own. And how about discovering Shaman Village and learning it was America's homeland? It was just such a haunting and powerful moment. I even made a full video on it because it struck me so deeply. Definitely check that one out if you'd like after. By the time I faced the final boss, Promise Consort Radahn, I was exhausted, but completely focused. That fight pushed me harder than anything I'd faced in the series at this point. I remember wondering for the first time in the game if I was really going to be able to beat this boss. And when I finally did win, the rush of accomplishment reminded me why I fell in love with these games in the first place. When it was all over, I didn't overthink it. I just sat there and appreciated the experience for what it was, something that would stick with me for a long time. 1 year later, I returned, curious to see the DLC again. Over the last year, I'd of course, by now, seen the backlash, artificial difficulty, unfair bosses, empty regions, criticism of Erdtree fragments. I read all of it after finishing the DLC the first time, but now I was going in with those opinions already in my mind. I wondered if I had missed something and if my love for these games had made me gaslight myself into building this up into something far greater than it really had been. Walking into the Graveslate Plains again felt strange this time. Everything was familiar, but I questioned my memories. Were the bosses really too hard? Was the world emptier than I remembered? After spending a few hours in the Shadowlands, I got my answer. It's a resounding no. I had a total blast running through it again. Shadow of the Erdtree's boss roster still stands as some of the best Soulsborne has ever had. Using more of the different weapons added in the DLC this run opened up new possibilities for builds and made everything feel more fresh, even though I knew it was coming. The gorgeous environments still blew me away. I took careful notice of how distinct each region felt this time, and walking through the Shadowlands, I paused to really look at the little details. Ruined bridges and buildings and all that stuff. I realized how much care went into creating an environment that still feels alive a year later. Some critiques did land differently though. Erdtree fragments are less engaging on a replay, and a few areas did feel emptier after knowing the map. But that didn't diminish the core experience, and the first playthrough is what they have to design these in mind with. I also caught details I'd missed the first time. Completing Pureblood Ansbach's quest added depth to the pre-Radon fight against Lita and made the storyline feel more complete. I spent time noticing more NPC dialogue, environmental clues, and lore connections I'd missed. Made me appreciate the world even more. By the end of that second run, I had no doubts left. Shadow of the Erdtree hit every mark. Bosses, world, lore, and all the other things that the main game did so well. And after seeing it with fresh eyes, while aware of the backlash, I could confidently say it. This is my favorite From Software content yet. While I reaffirmed my love for the DLC, I couldn't ignore what so many people were saying. People acted like this expansion was a war crime that Miyazaki needed to be put on trial for. YouTubers kept shouting about artificial difficulty, and Redditors parroted that annoying phrase in every post without ever expanding on what they even meant by that. What stuck out to me the most was how often players felt the need to analyze it all. They went over every little detail with a fine-tooth comb and questioned every design choice, instead of just asking, did I enjoy this moment or did I not? It reminded me that part of enjoying a game is letting yourself just experience it without thinking too much. Don't get lost in the noise. Focus on the experience itself and stay in the moment. After a year away with all the noise from the community, I returned to Shadow of the Erdtree and loved it just as much as the first time. The bosses still hit hard, the world felt alive, the lore resonated, and the sense of accomplishment was just as strong. Because that's what matters most. You don't have to overthink, and definitely don't let other people's opinions dictate your experience. Play it, explore it, fail, succeed, and feel it. For me, Shadow of the Erdtree remains my favorite From Software content yet. A year later, it still blows me away, and that's the magic of games like this. They create moments that stay with you where the world, the lore, and the challenge come together in a way that feels like your own personal legend. And those are the experiences that we carry with us and remind us why we fell in love with these games in the first place. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking the video and subscribing for future content and checking out a video on the screen now. Love you guys. See you in the next one.